Welcome back to the most professional Starcraft 2, with the greatest player of all time, in the red, the finisher. It's Serral, facing off against one of his greatest challengers, the Protoss in the blue, the Executor. We have Classic. In a best-of-5, Protoss versus Zerg showdown, between Serral's endless patience and Classic's long-winded strategies, I think there will be plenty of time for you to smash that like button, and maybe even subscribe. How we got the algorithm, and Jimmy, what are we at? 1,655 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As Classic, unable to block any of those early bases from Serral. Instead, he's able to just slap down his Natchery and his third, undeterred. The first Adept will come in to do some follow-up scouting, and just generally make the Zerg's life difficult. But then again, that's like the most of the first 5 minutes of the build order for Protoss and Terran alike. And Serral, I was spooling up to do all your generic filler commentary as the Queen and Adepts play footsies. But no, Serral, with a lot of feetsies on the way. Should sign up for OnlyFans, but 2 Adepts up against a dozen Zerglings, and Serral's just going to show them. Serral is clearly intent on demonstrating that the best defense is a good offense. And showing Classic these Zerglings, I'm not sure how that affects his reaction. Obviously, the Oracles are going to want to be back at home to defend the third. The Oracle actually doing a once-around. I think he's just registering what he saw. That Serral actually built enough Zerglings to be dangerous. But they're not at the base. Both players are waiting for the other to make the next move. The Oracle is holding out a vision range, making sure Serral can't see it, and Serral is hiding from any Oracles coming out. The Overlord spotted the second Oracle coming across the map. The Zerglings are going to come in. The Adepts, 2 Adepts is already a bit annoying to engage, but he will just jump right on top of them. Third Adept as well be surrounded as it warps in, and the Oracles are coming back home, which is the real win here. This is enough Zerglings that Classic cannot be sure there aren't more on the way. We know there aren't more on the way, but Serral, threatening to cancel that base, forces the Oracles back and carves open quite an economic lead for himself at a time when, especially up against this composition, that economic lead is not guaranteed. The Oracles unable to do anything on the other side because the Zerglings already preemptively blocked them from doing so. The Hero Overlord, will come in and spot that this is exactly what Serral expected it to be. A Twilight, a Forge, more gates on the way. Just confirming this isn't some sort of Tempest Rush, occasionally glaive Adepts, but that just kind of, I guess, underlines the standard build that Classic is playing. The Blink Stalkers in order to keep the pressure on, and with the Oracles overhead to protect. But the Oracle's kind of ambitious. The Queen's the triple team, and get off my crate! Yeah, but he got the stasis, Brenda. Still, a mediocre stasis, definitely not worth the cost of losing that Oracle early. A mild hiccup in the mining of Serral, and a major setback in the scouting for Classic. 1 Oracle can't do much more than slap down Revelations for, well, the foreseeable future, based on my revelations. Hydra was done on the way. Serral, 68 drones. And that's going to be the number for a while, it looks like. He's got 7 Overlords in production. Clearly intending on building enough units to crush any sort of Blink Stalkers on the way. Templar Archives just started, so Storm is still quite a ways off. No, the clouds are on the horizon. 4 bases for Serral, 68 drones exactly. That 4th hatchery, a big part of continuing to maintain the momentum. Classic does not have a 4th Nexus. A Zergling on location. Overseer coming in to make sure he knows about the tech follow-up. But Serral is not adding on any tech himself. No more drones, no more hatcheries. Overseer just casually strolling by, going to see the robotics facility, which indicates Classic not going all in here, but instead just looking to put on the pressure. The base itself. A couple stasis are backstopping this, and Serral gets a few of the Zerglings caught. And this is a precarious time for both sides. Neither has enough army to reliably crush the other, unless they make a big mistake, one way or the other. Well, another stasis actually catches the Queen in a few more lanes. The Stalkers continuing to go forward. The Adepts tried to shade in, got ripped apart. The 4th base opened up. Classic taking it behind all this. The Stalkers moving in, but the Hydra count and the Zergling number actually quite high. Stasis only catches a few lanes. A panic recall. He's going to lose 3-4 more Stalkers on the way out. A costly mistake. Digging a little bit too deep and just a slight bit too greedily. And Storm is not quite done yet. And the Overseer, it has enough energy for Contaminate. If Serral's able to cancel the Storm, that could be a potentially game-winning move at this exact moment. He's coming in, he spots the Templar, the Hydras. There's the threat of Storm there. The Overseer, 3-2. That close. I think Serral noticed. Enough army on the field. They have +1. Very helpful for that Archon. And everything else, but very much the Archon. With the splash damage on everything nearby. Behind it, though, Serral was not putting all his eggs in this particular basket. He was putting them in many different directions. Overlords, Hydras, more drones to replace the ones he's spending on building a lurker den, spine crawlers. That hive is nearly completed already, but not to be outdone. There's a fleet beacon on the way for Classic. So both players shooting up the tech tree like a bamboo shoot right now. And quite a haphazard fight. The fourth hatchery taking a lot of damage. Zoning storms, keeping many of the Hydras at bay. Takes out the hatchery. Another storm waves through it. There's a bit more energy left over in Classic. We'll do a tactical withdrawal. Potentially end up losing the Templar, which is quite costly in the scheme of things. But Serral lost the fourth hatch. Classic deciding to continue fighting this out, which is a bit questionable, but Tempests are already on the way. Serral down to 136 supply, and without the fourth hatchery, it's not just the economy, it's the production. You don't have that extra larva in order to reinforce the army. And that means Classic, with a fourth base online, his gateways and stargates already up, is able to match Serral's supply. With a strong fighting army right now that's about to have +2 ground weapons. Until the lurkers really hit the field, or I guess more relevantly under the field, but let's not be pedantic, alright? That's for the comments. But until the lurkers are ready, especially with those hive tech upgrades, because without hive tech upgrades, those lurkers are like a biscuit without butter. But the lurkers revealed, or more accurately not revealed, and Classic forced to back off before he gets eviscerated. The Tempest continue production. No mothership on the way yet, but +1 Protoss air weapons. Slaps down some more revelation to help clear the creep. The Overlord, the Oracle, after seeing what happened to its more lackadaisical brethren, has stayed alive throughout all this. The battle lines are drawn, and the Zealots are cutting through the Zerglings. Quite an efficient trade as those Zealots just charging forward, slicing up another few dozen lings. The battle has continued for over 2 minutes. Classic taking a marginally better trade by most measures, but it's going to come down to this initial lurker wave. Serral's managed to slip by completely uncontested and burrows down right in front of the third base. The Oracle and the Observer provide detection, but there's not that much on the ground. I don't see any Immortals. And lurkers from the left side. Who's flanking who at this stage? The Tempests are shelling the Hydras, but slowly working their way through the lurkers. Another storm. More lurkers coming up. Serral, he might be able to take out the Nexus. How many Hydras? 3 Hydras are not quite enough anti-air to deal with 4 Tempests and anything else underneath. But the lurkers have already taken out the Nexus, removed that economic location, and the game has shifted in much the same way as a few minutes ago when Serral lost his fourth base. Now Classic is the one with a strong army, but somewhat less economy. Though the worker count for both sides is still pretty comfortable, 85 to 89. There's no way Classic could officially mine with 36 workers on his natural. A little bit much, but just looking for new employment opportunities.
Growing up in the Bronx, I know how critical it is to fix our housing crisis.
This November, New Yorkers can vote on an expedited process for building housing and other city charter reform.
Flip your ballot over.
Vote on questions 2 through 6.
It's only knowing that no matter what you're doing online, if it's connected, it's protected with Spectrum.
Serral took the base down the center, the half and half gold with the destructible rocks. The lurker's trying to deal with the 12 o'clock, but not going to get it. Tempest, ain't no kill like overkill on those drones. Tectonic destabilizers on the way to help annihilate buildings. Pretty much doubles the damage against buildings. Classic starting to cut through. He's taking the supply lead. The lurkers are getting cut down. A desperate transfuse, but another lurker taken out. The storm softening things up. Only Templar left over on the ground. This fight just kind of sprawling across the field. Lurkers from the north side, but there's barely any ground units with left to flank. Classic only now retaking the Nexus at his former third location, but a mothership has completed. Serral, his 5th base was removed. He lost a few drones, and he can't really replace his army. He's lost 4,000 more resources, including 1,000 more gas. He's struggling to contest Classic's supply. Classic has kept the core parts of his army together. The Tempest, the Templar, and the mothership. Well, the mothership now being revealed. It's inevitable as time goes on, and the Protoss has a good enough economy. Not the most, agile unit, but it doesn't need to be, especially since it can't be abducted anymore. It stays firmly entrenched wherever it decides to come to rest. And having access, let alone anything else, having a second recall really exponentially increases your opportunity to move around the map as Protoss. That mothership recall ability, on top of the time warp, on top of the cloaking, really gives you a whole layer cake of beautiful Protoss opportunities. Charge lots over to the left flank. Half a dozen Tempests. Dorito dusted now for extra damage. Obliterates the hatchery moments later. Void Ray is on the way to directly contest the Corruptors. That is an interesting move. Going for almost pure sky toss as opposed to more of a ground army. Hatchery down the center. Just exploderated. Serral cancels it before it can get too close. Has to slow things down. The corruptor count. Now, the careful balance begins. Too many corruptors, and a ground army will wipe you out. Too few, and you just die to the sky toss. Yes, eventually you can make your Spire great again. Eventually Broodlords are an option. But you can't just shift back and forth from Broodlords into Corruptors and vice versa. So being caught with too little anti-air is not a risk that Serral wants to take. But you still see him adding on Lurkers, more Zerglings, thinking about counterattacks, cutting off these Zealots, anticipating this attack. Serral's upgrades are actually quite thin. No melee attack, no carapace, just +2 range. Serral's been pretty broke throughout this game, while Classic is banking up now, 2,000, 1,500. It's starting to trend in Classic's direction once again. The master of the late game, the high-tech Protoss. Though the Lurkers will slice up a couple Archons. The Lurkers are moving forward on the other side as well. Lurkers everywhere. Recalls back the mothership itself, alongside the majority of the army, abandoning the Zealots on the other side. Classic repositioning, consolidating his army. And we've seen time and time again, it's much more important to keep the right army alive than it is to protect every base. Okay, you can rebuild a Nexus for 400 minerals, but the mothership requires 400 minerals and gas, so not exactly the cheapest thing. Losing a few extra units to try to protect a base is just not worth it in the long term, and we're going to have to start thinking about long-term futures here, as both players are investing in these high-tech armies. Serral, though, curiously, well, not really curiously, the reason he's not adding spellcasters is because he's been broke most of this time, and he hasn't needed them. The Lurkers have gotten the job done. The Corruptors have forced out this sort of composition. The cannons are coming up across the board. There's currently 15 cannons on the map, with more on the way. The Storm's keeping things at bay. Classic, trying to reposition, just knocks out another Lurker. +2 air weapons now completed. And +2 air armor's on the way. Flyer attack level 1 about to complete for Serral. He's working on melee attack as well. But one mediocre fight could put him in an unrecoverable position. This is such a tough position for Zerg to deal with. Classic has, well, he spent all of his gas bank. He just warped in 4 more Templar. A Congress of Corruptors is looking for some pickoffs. The Archons underneath, with those Changelings are quite conspicuous, but Classic not really realizing. Vipers, Neural Parasite, now in production. I mean, that's one way to beat this army, is with this army. Tempest very good against Tempest. Corruptors split. Time Warp tries to zone him out, just evades it entirely. The Corruptor's on top of everything. The Archon's trying to reposition. There's not that many Storms left over. Knocks out the mothership with a fadeaway shot. And the Lurkers are able to slice through the Archons from a more extreme range. And suddenly Serral has surgically amputated the most important parts of the army. The mothership has been removed. The Archon count has been whittled down. He's rebuilding. Well, he has to rebuild Overlords, but Hydras and Corruptors. Classic's still trying to go forward. He does have that Observer. He can see the Lurkers, and he still has a lot of supply on the field. But a single Lurker has denied the base down the center. Charge lots, almost impossible to deal with without committing Lurkers. Tempest shelling through another hatchery. Serral with a Greater Spire on the way. Another ship is halfway done. This single Lurker, Serral's so good at being... He's just... Somehow he finds these opportunities. Works smarter and not harder. One Lurker. Why use many Lurker when one Lurker do trick? He knew it wasn't going to be a base-breaking counterattack. But he kept him from mining for this long. Serral has managed to slide into the green yet again. As you see the red dip all the way down. 2,000 more resources per minute. As Serral has the 6 o'clock base all the way over to, we'll call it the 5 o'clock. So 2-3 mining bases at the moment. Though Classic is reinforcing. There's an Overlord just hanging out, watching it all come together. Just kind of accepting its lot in life. There's another dozen cannons or so put together. Corruptors. Not able to knock anything out quite yet, but get one of the Tempests. Abducts another. Takes out 2 of the Storms, late on the draw. Classic working on +3 air weapons and armor. Meanwhile, Serral is over here with the used car dealer version. Alright. You know, you could get a new 3-3 Corruptor. Right here. Walk out of it right now. Walk right out of this dealership with a 3-3 Corruptor. Or for half the price, I could offer you +1 flyer attack and maybe a neural parasite or 2. Well, how does it fare against detection? Not well. Not well. But a few things do. The Corruptors. Serral's still with 200 supply, and he's managed to bank up more gas as well. That single lurker backstab. Classic, still 1,200 gas more efficient, but Serral, oh my. Almost killed another half dozen probes with a single lurker swipe, but a Nidus is on the way. Serral has held on so far, and he's whittled down Classic to an actually inferior bank. It's still a very difficult army to dismantle.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, October 10th.
Business tech that's bold, fresh, and delicious. Get started at easycater.com.
Okay, Shakira, let's play. What game are you?
Sure, let's play.
All right. So, do you prefer old classic games or new games?
I love new games.
Okay. So are you more into mobile or console?
I'm constantly on the move, so it has to be mobile.
Of course. Okay, so puzzle or...
Yeah, the Nidus on the way. 3 infestors in production. Burrow is completed. Very helpful for that neural parasite, of course. The lurkers. Templar gliding forward. I think there are a few probes mixed into that army, but, you know, they have a taste for blood. Somehow. Nidus in the main base. Now being revealed, 2 zealots might not be enough to actually stop this before it completes and pops out some lurkers. Serral will do so. Gets 5 lurkers in there and starts another Nidus. And this has gone from a concern to a quandary. Classic is nearly maxed out, so he can only warp in so much. Suffering from success at the moment as he tries to deal with this. Obviously doesn't want to lose the fleet beacon, but Serral with the escape. I'm out of here. Another Nidus coming in, but he actually baited the army into position. He recalls the Archons to the mothership underneath. Great quick thinking out of Classic. But Serral's still outmaneuvering him, and the Lurker's back! The Lurker is back and stabbing its way through the base. The Nidus Worm obliterated with great prejudice. As Classic, but another Nidus at the back of the base. Serral trying to bait in. The Corruptors are in position to pick things off. He's even got a Viper alongside. Just camping the Tempest in the Stargates. And now Serral, that one Lurker, he's setting himself up so no matter what, he wins. Alright, he plays every side, so he can't lose. And so far, it's working out. The pylons, the powerhouse, the Protoss, being completely pulled apart by the Lurkers. He targets the Nidus. Oh, a little bit late. And the Lurkers will be obliterated here. But keeping them busy. On the other side, just an entire floor of Lurkers. Serral keeping Classic so busy in the main base. Meanwhile, the Zerglings may actually take out this Nexus. It's been a long time coming. Like 3-4 minutes of constantly dragging Classic away. And finally, Serral takes down that Nexus. The cannons just throughout the entire field. Another cannon in the main actually helping to deal with the Nidus Worm. But Serral is exhausting a lot of his bank. He's got 9 Broodlords on the way. That is quite an army out of Classic. 132 to 137 army supply. Serral technically with slightly more. The mothership is still in the main base. Tempest going to obliterate the base down the center again. The income has tilted back towards Classic despite losing that center base because Serral, 1, doesn't have that many drones, and 2, he just lost a base of his own. In fact, he tried to take the 3 o'clock base, which was a bit optimistic, but the feedbacks on the infestors not quite nailing it. A couple almost popped by the feedbacks, but the Broodlords overhead going to grind their way through the Archons. And if it's just Archons fighting Archons, Immortals left behind. Does he kill the hatchery? He does not. The Archons can't be recalled back because they're part of the Zerg army, at least temporarily. The Archon will actually kill one of the infestors. What's happening in the main? A warp prism, but the Lurkers will eviscerate the Zealots. The Lurkers will cut through the Nexus to the top left corner. The Zealots will do the same to the 3 o'clock base. But Serral has managed to dismantle the counterattack. He's knocked out the army. He's removed multiple Nexi. And he's up by 70 supply. What happened? Serral. The Lurkers now. Classic is reeling from all of this. Serral, a maestro, has managed to manipulate Classic into this position. He forced him into an awkward fight. Classic clearly just trying to shove his way in and get something done with what he thought was a potentially game-winning army. And Serral just pulled him apart while stabbing him in the back, making sure nothing could get the damage done. The Nidus complete, slightly out of range of the cannon, takes out the cannon. More Zerglings up to the top left corner. Those will be cut down. But just setting things up for later. More Lurkers. The fleet beacon itself could be cut out. The Stargates ripped apart or depowered. The Corruptors on top of this yanks in a Tempest. Gets another one. Buy one, get one free. Well, it's not free. You still have to go get the energy. But 27 more probes dead in Classic. It is crumbling. He doesn't have the money to rebuild this army. He doesn't have the bases to reliably mine from. And he doesn't seem to have any idea how to strike back against Serral effectively. Serral has somehow gone from a tenuous position to a commanding one. He's maxed out with money in the bank. Again, Classic has half the supply. Classic still has resources. But he can't spend them. He's only got like 3-4 gateways powered. More opening up at the natural. But one of the most comprehensive dismantlings I have ever seen of arguably the most difficult unit composition in the game to deal with. It's not over yet. But if Classic couldn't get it done with 200 supply and an armada, I'm hard-pressed to see 100 being enough to take it home. Wow. Serral continues to shut things down. And he's just, like... So many players would just be going for the kill. But Serral just keep calm and carry on. He knows he's dealt critical damage, and now he's letting Classic die. A Nidus behind the wall. Let us in! Let us in! Well, the Zerglings popping out of the Nidus. Lurker slicing through the third. This is actually a horrible trade for Serral, but I don't know if those actually exist anymore. Classic still has quite an army. Those Lurkers, he kills any Templar. But Infestor Broodlords. Hello, darkness, my old friend. The Changeling's almost blocking the Zealots from being able to kill the Nidus, but Classic has exhausted his bank. A significant part of it in rebuilding his infrastructure. And... Classic still has an army. That's why he's not tapping out. Like, 92 supply of +3/3 Tempest Archons. I guess +1 shields on him, but... Serral has still not maxed out his upgrades. He's only now working on +3 Carapace. There's the feedbacks. 0 out of 5 tried to murder me. 0 out of 5 succeeded. The Tempest turned on their own. Serral using those Tempests to snipe the Templar. Wow. And then holding them in place so the Corruptors can take them down. Serral just calmly picking apart this incredibly expensive Protoss army. And I don't think Classic had insurance. The Oracle comes in, actually manages to get an Infestor or two. But that's it. Serral. A absolute grandmaster class of how... The thing is, I'm going to say how to play the late game, but I'm still not exactly sure what happened. But Serral, between multiple Niduses, the Corruptor and Viper positioning, as well as just constantly pressuring, constantly poking, constantly prodding, and whenever he sees a little bit of weakness, just another Lurker. Alright, a few Zerglings. Never overcommitting, but always putting something out there. And, well, diversifying his portfolio. Well, that is the Serral that Zerg players hate to see. For their sake, when it comes to the next Balance Council patch notes, but... What a beautiful game from Serral, where any fight for about 10 minutes straight could have resulted in a near-automatic loss. Instead, it turns into a decisive victory. I don't even know. Alright, game 2. Leyland.
Doritos.
Yeah! It's a grudge match in the Big Apple. Eagles, Giants, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime.
The escape Niduses, the single Lurkers. He never let Classic build up much of an immortal count either. Because I think Classic went straight into the Tempest so quickly, like, he kind of skipped over the Immortals. And Serral recognized that, I'm pretty sure, is why he had so many Lurkers. Because if they end up having a death ball of, like, 8, 10 immortals, which is not rare. Then the lurkers, especially in small numbers, get obliterated. But if they don't add too many immortals in, then the Archons need the Tempest support. The Archons can't get very close. All right, the Archons don't believe in social distancing, so they want to get all up in your grill and show you their overwhelming power, which HR said I can't say, but we're just gonna... Moving on. So, Serral recognizing the weaknesses of the composition and just picking off the Tempest on the way back to the main. The Neural Parasite was just gratuitous. It added to it. I don't think it was necessary, but it certainly... He truly makes... No matter what, like, when Serral has a great game, he truly makes Zerg look overpowered. Much to the dismay, again, of pretty much... Well, literally every other Zerg player. There is not another Zerg player in the world who's able to do that. Serral on some days is unable to do that, even against Classic. But this is not one of those days. Pro being as annoying as possible, even stealing some of the minerals. Just well, if this match comes down to 5 minerals, you know who to blame. It's not actually, considering these two's history, those 5 minerals are not out of the question. All right, if you haven't yet seen Classic versus Serral from DreamHack Dallas, you can find, I think the thumbnail just has a bunch of Broodlords in it. Hopefully this one doesn't also have a bunch. Jimmy, don't put a bunch of Broodlords in the thumbnail. I don't care how good it works. All right, come up with something original, like 1 Broodlord. Or a mini-map. Sorry. Edit that out. But, I am not exaggerating when I say those 5 minerals could be a game changer. It's worth it. All right. The comments will back me up. They've already seen this match I'm talking about. Well, the whole thing, but one in particular. All right, Queen's going back and forth. The Adept poking in. No big Zergling backstab this time, but instead, the mind games, like, from the very beginning, I should have been prepared. Serral has looked mortal lately. All right, there's a low single-digit number of players who can beat him. Classic, one of them. But the mind games on that first Zergling rush. And we got another one. A dozen lings on the way, but this is a cancel the third base time. He's got 8 more lings. This is a full-on Zerg rush. A full-on Zerg rush. Enough Zerglings to cancel the Nexus. I don't think he's trying to fight the Adepts here. But instead, the Zerglings gonna be sneaking in. And the Overlord! Stalker not in position. Actually goes for the Adept. Classic! A little lazy. Will cost him an Adept. He didn't quite have them tucked into those minerals, but you know what? It wasn't a cancel the third base timing. It was a good old-fashioned keep the Oracles back at home. The timing is so perfect. Might be able to grab that Stalker before it gets back. Wait, that's a hard wall. Classic. Serral, I'm sure happy to see that. It's not a big deal. Wait. No, it's not a hard wall. Did Serral think it was hard? It looked like one. It's not. All right. I've got my hero glasses on. Classic actually quite an expert at walling off. Save the drone with the Evo chamber. He probably wanted to build anyways. The Oracles this time around. Piku lasing some of the drones. The Queens jammed in behind the mineral line. It's a bit of a tight fit, but they managed to make it through there. The Zerglings working around, but Classic a little bit better off this time after the early exchanges. Gonna be only a few probes behind. Which a perfectly... What? He lost an Oracle. Clearly both myself and Classic looking the other way. Losing an Oracle early on. Another medium to large blow. Certainly not how you want to start things off. Having 2 Oracles is an order of magnitude better than 1. A single Oracle just to slap down Revelation. You can use all the energy on the other for helping to clear creep, building stasis. Just having the 1 means he's got to wear a lot of hats. So, I mean, with energy recharge, you can usually get away with it, but it's not as fun. Templar Archives already on the way. Oracle lights up. Adepts threaten to shade through. Brenda, where are you going? Turn off Apple Maps. I'm an Android user. I don't even understand what that means. Is that a Terran term? No. Sorry, I'm blacked out for a moment. Storm's on the way. More gates. Robo in production. Infestation bid for Serral. 66 drones building up enough to crush this timing, ideally. We'll see if he's actually able to do so. So far, the Zergling counterattack Hydras fighting it out. Zergling counterattack shut down, and the Hydra is not quite enough. So again, Classic maybe stepping a bit too far. One Stalker. Gonna pay the price. Oh, Serral with the Contaminate. It's ready! It's ready! But Serral's looking to intercept the Stalkers. Forces out a recall yet again. This time around, only gonna get one Stalker. And yet again, the Contaminate not gonna be there. Not that it would matter too much. Serral with the Overseer on the main. He could delay the +2 attack. I think you go for, yeah, you just go for this one. Delaying the upgrades, obviously very helpful. Not as potentially game-winning as straight-up delaying Storm, but Serral has no intentions. He's not short-sighted. In fact, it's like he's got binoculars on. That's how far ahead he's looking. Maybe that's how he figures out how to outmaneuver for 5 minutes straight. But he's already got a hive on the way. 5 lurkers. They're tech lurkers, so, you know, the starter version, but a fleet beacon is in production for Classic as we head towards the late game. Kind of skipped there with these two on a frequent occasion. Now we've got... Oh, the Warp Prism! Oh, no. Knocked out of the sky. Classic. Working his way around. 5 more lurkers on the way. Lurker range in production, but Classic with a healthy army supply. Not that healthy if he fights up a ramp into lurkers. Whoa. Those zealots. One Lego away from stubbing their toe and dying, but the other zealots surrounded by Hydras and Lings, and Classic suddenly rethinks the aggressive stance he was taking. Spires on the way, more cannons to batten things down.
Ah, it's Reese's season.
Curious about your credit score? Check your credit score for free with Chase Credit Journey. And build credit with the Freedom Rise credit card. Learn more at chase.com/rise.
Oh. 2 Tempests in production and a Mothership as well. The Storm may end up killing his own Observer. Not quite. The Storm softening up many of the Zerglings. Tempest knocking out the Overseer. Oh no, the Templar! Quite a flank out of Serral! And just ripping through. He saves the Templar, the Blink Stalkers. What a save for Classic. And a recall to get out. Wow, he MacGyvered his way out of that one. Still a costly fight, but it goes from a critical damage to mostly superficial. He lost some Stalkers, he lost some Zealots, but only 1 Archon, and he killed 4 Lurkers. So actually Classic gets the better end of that exchange despite Serral's positioning. Wow, actually straight up dodges a stasis, which is remarkably hard to do, even with Zerglings. Adrenal Glands on the way. A Zealot in the wall, holding the line, but charges out. +2 ground weapons done. Finally for Classic after the Contaminate. Mothership nearly completed. And the Tempest count continues to grow. Serral just expanding across absolutely everything. We've got more Corruptors in production. Melee attack. Carapace. This is not the low economy brawl we saw last game. This is 95 drone Serral. He's got 5 bases going on 6, going on 7. About as much economy as you could ever ask for. A dozen Corruptors on the way. Overlord speed completing. All the fixins here. Meanwhile, Classic isn't doing too bad himself. He has 82 probes. Yep, the Zerglings get in, but the Zealot Warping cuts off the rest. That Pylon could be targeted. Actually, not a bad angle for the Hydras. Just kind of shimmies his way through. The Hydras will get inside the base, finding a pretty good position there. There's a Changeling! Oh, he could have body blocked him out. I'm sure Classic would have figured it out pretty quick. But this is drawing the army away in order to bring the Lurkers in. And slices through. Beautifully done. But Classic deflects it with the active cloaking. Some charge lots to the south. And Adrenal Glands now completed. But how many Zerglings? 3 Zerglings. So, that's awkward. The Zealots just sprinting in. 3 Archons on the way. Tectonic destabilizers. We're filling in the rest of the late game upgrade. The Corruptor chased the Prism all the way back to the base and beyond. The Prism has survived thus far. We'll fly back over the shield battery and the cannon. This is awkward. The shield battery doesn't quite... It got one last drip of energy, which might be enough to save it. Serral realized at the last moment that saga has now ended. The B plot, more like the E plot at this point. Zerglings over on the Nexus down the center. Meanwhile, the Tempest obliterate the hatchery on the opposite side. And the late game has certainly begun. Nidus, Greater Spire, second Spire on the way. Burrow as well, angling towards those infestors. Classic building up the bank. Air weapons level 1 is done. Serral again, picking him apart. Another Nexus down to the north. Things will slow down as both sides kind of take stock. They both reached out in order to expand as far as they could, and both have kind of bopped the hatcheries and the Nexi on the outside and consolidated their forces where they can defend. And now Serral is thinking about an Ultralisk Cavern. A bold move, but potentially a game-winning one. As Ultras against... how many Immortals? Only 3 Immortals. Something you can use to just cut through bases. It's a costly endeavor. But Ultras, when used well, I think Serral is one of the few who can make that decision. Can turn things heavily in your favor to the point... well, unlike last game, Ultras can just barrel through the cannons, absorb the damage, ignore Storm, but they cannot ignore Immortals, Mass Tempest, so... or a whole bunch of Archons. They're the strongest counterattack option. And the most expensive. I'd say even more than Lurkers, pound for pound, considering the cost and supply. But obviously we know pound for pound the most expensive is your mother. That was a compliment. 7 cannons on the way. Immortals being added in chitinous plating. Serral again hitting the Nexus down the center. Archons maneuvering into position. Not going to lose the Lurkers. Serral, unless the Nexus is about dead, just pulls back the Lurkers. He's patient, he'll wait. He'll come back later. Manages to find a spot without cannons to slap down a Nidus. And, the Tempest will get rid of it. The Changelings, at what point? At what point is it too many to deal with? The Changelings with the army. Oh, my wife for hire, right, boys? How much does she charge? No, like a Templar. No, I was making a Zealot joke. Hey, get your jokes straight. Who are these guys? The probes will dismantle the Changelings, sniffing out the traitors. Another Nidus makes its way into the natural. There are cannons dotting the base, but Serral just keeps finding. Oh, that's Changelings. Nope. Password. Hunter 2. And things definitely slowing down as Serral continuing the counterattacks, but it seems, well, he's got a whole forest of spines to the north. He's got a Sporist coming together down the center. And we are going into the supreme late game, where it's no longer about the army compositions, but about the amount in the bank. Just eviscerated a couple of Immortals and Templar. These trades still quite good for Serral. He's actually lost approximately the same amount of resources. In fact, Classic has lost slightly more, which bodes very well considering how aggressively Serral is expanding. But, of course, you have to be careful not to throw things away. I don't need to tell Serral that. Working on +3 upgrades. This time it's Classic who's been stuck with lower upgrades. This time it's Classic who has been scrounging for minerals and gas. I mean, not anymore, obviously. It's perfectly fine, but... Serral has also... This isn't going to end anytime soon. All right. I keep... It's like, okay, we got to shift out of play-by-play into more chess-by-mail commentary. As the Brood Lords are moving forward. The worker counts are still kind of surprisingly high as the armies grow in sheer value. 7,800, 6,500 for Serral's army, at nearly equal army supply as Classic, who only has 6k, 5,200. So Classic still, with a bunch of Zealots mixed in. Tempests are actually not that costly per supply. I don't know if that's true. It's just that Infestors and Broodlords are very expensive. The Lurkers just shredding Zealots before they can even get close. Move a little bit forward. Actually micros back to make sure the cannons can't hit. Slowly, yet methodically, working his way through the defenses and using the Nidus as an escape route. Pulls back from the base down the center. Another Nidus. Another set of Changelings providing vision. The Mothership backstopping the main army. Serral tucks back into the bottom right.
Hi, I'm Brother Nature. My sister, Mother Nature, grows everything organic, but I make it delicious. Nature's Path.
Getting what you want takes hard work. Pilates, cold plunges, facials, but some things are just easy. With Verizon Fios, I get super fast, reliable internet for the same price for 5 years. Not mad at that. Plus, no sneaky fees, no equipment charges. So while Verizon's busy making all my internet dreams come true, I can just focus on self-care.
And this is like pausing. I don't know what's happening.
And now Cletus, the lurker left behind. Oh, and Classic obliterates his own Nexus. Emotional damage. Classic, I have no idea, but wow, quite an own goal there. As Classic literally killed his own Nexus, which in the grand scheme of things is not actually that big a deal because he has 5,000 in the bank. He can rebuild it immediately, but, you know, does not bode well. What a storm run by! He recalls the Templar out. Like a glide by, but the Templar just casually stroll in, storm 8 drones to death. But the lurkers are just... well, they continue to slice through. 3 infestors on the way. The Immortal's not going to be enough. Crosshatched by the lurkers. Serral closing in on fully maxed out upgrades. The Storm softening him up, but the hardened Carapaces. He's got +3 Carapace and has for a while. Carapaces? That sounds wrong. Carapaces. No, that's right. Some days I know how to speak English. On other days, I speak American. Yeah, I have the best words. The YouTube comments tell me. That's how I know. They're very smart there. Like and subscribe if you agree. Another wall of cannons coming together. Serral now mining the Rich Vespine. So the Rich Vespine is usually high impact because it allows you to get a big boost to your tech. But the fact that 2 of the geysers on the map are Rich Vespine, they mine out quicker. And there's only one of them. Has the same amount, 2250 gas apiece. So, not that big a deal in this sort of set-piece match. +3 shields, +2 air weapons on the way. Serral did get the Ultralisk upgrades, as the upgrades... That's one way to deal with this. You shall not pass. Cannons and Templar and shield batteries. There are 27 cannons on the map and counting. 17 Spore Crawlers, 9 Spines. Not getting too ridiculous yet. The worker counts are slowly dipping as neither side really incentivized to rebuild, as we're past the point they can reliably mine from multiple bases. Serral, Neural Parasites, the Tempest. And, well, that's one way to hold them in place, but the Storms are good on the Corruptors. Yanks in another couple. The Broodlords sieging during it. The Broodlords getting the damage done while the Corruptors were dueling with the Air Army. In Classic, getting ground down. He still has plenty in the bank, but Serral has over 9,000. What, 9,000? Over 9,000. Minerals and gas. And counting. He's had the overwhelming income advantage for all but a few seconds of the last 10 minutes. Warp in of some charge lots will maybe take out the Spire, but +3 air attack is completing on the Greater Spire in the main. And rebuilding, well, he already has a Spire then, so he doesn't really need 2 at this point. So that's superficial damage. So with 10,000 gas, are you kidding me? Oh, he's going to corner the market at this point. This is how he always ends up with such great long-term investments, okay? He knows how to limit the supply and the demand. I demand you look at the supply. They're both maxed out. Classic isn't technically maxed out, but he could at any time. I think he just is holding some of the supply open to warp in. What's the total? We got 8 gates, 3 Stargates, a single Robo. The Broodlord count, 9 Broodlords, 16 Corruptors, 3 Lurkers, 8 Infestors, 73 Zerglings. Serral has maxed out the upgrades. 3-3, 3-3-3. Meanwhile, +3 shields about to complete for Classic. That's a rare one as well. As Serral has turned this into an economic war. Classic has been unable to take a cost-effective fight. Serral's lost 2,000 more gas. That is a lot of Archons. That's a dozen Archons. Just annihilating everything in their path. There weren't nearly enough Lurkers. Without the Broodlord, the Archons just melt everything. Wow. The Tempest helping with the static defense. Honestly, the value of the Spine Crawlers is making it hard for the Archons to get close. Zergling counterattack with the surprisingly high number of lanes. Active cloaking will protect the Nexus. How many Tempests? 8 Tempests, 12 Archons. The Zerglings just ripping apart a Nexus. He has a Drain Lens, of course, yeah. Has all the upgrades. Does not bother with Hydra Lunge. Appreciate that. In my opinion, Hydra Lunge is just as likely to get you into trouble as out of it. As Serral slowly but surely dismantles the map. He's taking the 12 o'clock base. One of the potentially contested ones. Knocks out a full prism. And if he's able to mine from both, we're entering the bean counter phase. We start counting how many minerals are left, rather than how many they have. As Serral with 12,000 in the bank. Okay, we knew his investment portfolio looked good, but this is just getting a little ridiculous. Okay. Wombo combo, fungal parasitic bomb holds it together. Neural parasite just for extra flavor. And Tempest, a very good counter to Tempest. Serral just obliterates 3 Tempests. Recalls, classic recalls to the bottom right corner. There's still some minerals at the natural. What do we got? Like 1,000? Hey, he's not running out of money. He has half the bank. Which he can rebuild his army once. It's more like Theseus's Armada here, though, where rarely do you have to, well, if you have to rebuild the entire army, things have gone horribly wrong. But you just rebuild a few units at a time until almost every unit is not one of the ones you started with. 2 Ultras. Wow, Serral adding in a couple Ultras. Looking to break the remaining defenses in a way that the Zerglings just can't get done. Void Ray is again the choice. And Serral content to sit back. Wait, is that an Archon wall of cannons? There's still 30 cannons. Infestors left at home. The Broodlord's in position. Is he doing the Broodling trick? I don't even know what's happening over there. This might have been Changelings. 13 Archons and 10 High Templar. As Classic is down to only 42 probes. Plus 3 air armor on the way. Plus 1 ground armor. Feels a little late on that one. Hydra Lunge. Both players are going through and checking which things they haven't pressed on their buildings, so they can get the 100% achievement. Not really relevant until this game comes to Steam. Blizzard intern, please.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, October 10th.
Expenses, the onboarding, the benefits, the time off requests, fixing payroll. It has to stop.
But, upgrade every upgrade in a professional match. What are we missing from Serral? Well, he didn't build a Roach Warren at all. Yes, he did. I lied. Classic. He had some ping issues. He turned off his VPN. And now he can experience the real game. But we're back. We don't wait for anyone here. But thank you to Pig for doing it live, suffering through, and putting on such incredible games. Make sure, Jimmy, put it in the description. It's not hard. Immortal's dead. Hydras and Lynx. Serral just continually poking and prodding and just grinding down. Like, not even grinding. It's like a sandpaper. I needed something that wasn't grinding, but like still was grating. Coarse, irritating, gets everywhere. Just like Serral. Somehow. It's unclear how sometimes he gets where he gets, but he ends up there. Look at this. A death ball of death ball. The blue balls of Protoss. And a mass recall to the north, but Serral had split the difference. His army was halfway across the map, and the Broodlords reposition pre-splits the Corruptors. That was A big play right there that Classic tried to make, but Shakespeare needn't be nervous. Doesn't end up coming to anything. The Archon's taking up a significant amount of the physical screen. But the Tempests are turned against their brothers. And many of them will be taken down. The rest of the Tempests, Neural Parasite, much more efficient than Abduct. Alright, because that way they become compliant. Like, you abduct them, they still try to run away. But when you Neural Parasite, they're convinced they need to stay. Neural Parasite, actually the most efficient way to stun a unit. And also do some extra damage. Death by 10,000 cuts. Like... Oh, that's kind of sad. Here comes Serral. There's nothing in the Nidus. It's a fake. It's a decoy. But Classic will be Does he actually lose this base? No. The army comes down, but Serral is just consuming the map. His creep spread is kind of mediocre, but clearly not focusing on it. Instead, he's mining from that, like, 1130 base. One of the two major contested bases on the map. Classic has been unable to touch the one to the south. Serral, I don't think has mined any there. I think he tried it at one point. It was taken out. There's 7 Void Rays out on the field. 14 Archons. They just keep multiplying. As more Templar enter loving, yet lifelong and irrevocable relationships. The Archon count continues to grow, and the Lurker count doesn't seem to be high enough to dislodge it. Broodlords and Lurkers combined might be able to deal with that angry mass of overwhelming energy. The Templar are going to throw some water balloons at the Spy Crawlers. Not nearly enough, but the Tempest obliterating them clearly is. Nidus in the main. A few more charge slots. As Serral. Classic still had some buttons he hadn't pressed. Observer speed on the way. Gravitic boosters. Wait, is that right? Yes, gravitic boosters and gravitic drive. No, the infestors! Gets a fungal out of the way. Is there a parasitic bomb follow-up? Not quite, but a couple of the Archons get grabbed. Trying to target. The Broodlord's out in front. The mothership just grinding through. And over the top of the infestors. And actually, Serral gets caught out. He loses a chunk of his infestors, already rebuilding them. But the Death Ball just kind of lumbering its way across the map of the Zerglings. Significantly faster. Does he have a recall? No, still 30 seconds out. The probe's just getting ripped apart by the Adrenalings to shreds, I say. The entire base is just dismantled in seconds by the hungry Zerglings. 25 probes dead. Classic has barely more than he started with. He's going to work on the base to the north. And Infestor and like 12 changelings. Infestor trying to pretend it was a changeling there, but sometimes there are things we just can't be in life. The Zerglings still... Weren't there Ultras at some point? Whatever happened to the Ultras? He actually canceled them. I was so excited to see the Ultras. But Serral actively canceled them. He didn't even throw them away. They're not in production. They're not on the field. They're not in units lost. It's like they never existed. Ultras don't die when they're killed. They die the last time someone mentions that they get killed so easily you might as well not build them. Alright, that's when Ultras will truly die. 13 Archons. Filtering through a traffic jam of cannons. This Classic just... again and again dragged back, and again it feels like Serral. Well, he has 10,000 gas. His army is 10.1, 8,700. So... But the Zerglings are breaking through. Classic has been entirely shoved back to his corner of the map. He has 12 probes, which does not make for a very healthy income. There are still minerals out there. Serral has mined 10k more, 7k more gas. He's actually lost 1,000 more gas, but 6,000 less minerals, which is kind of a crazy spread. "11 Void Rays. Ah, yes. Void Rays, the TV dinner of Protoss units. Well, the microwave dinner. Alright, who has a TV nowadays? Shout out to those of you watching on TV. Sometimes have to wake up! It's not over yet! It's still game 2! And you haven't liked and subscribed. I know it's a real pain. I hope the ads aren't too annoying on TV. But, I'm sorry, I fell asleep in front of my own commentary train and got distracted. What was I saying? I'm sure it was profound and exciting and worth listening to. But I'm sure it was also concluded and didn't need speaking of. Void Rays, yes. the microwave... Like, when you're a little too lazy to actually make something nice, and maybe a little too cheap to make something more healthy, you make Void Rays. And yes, comparing a TV dinner to anything Protoss who don't have mouths is kind of convoluted in the first place, but Void Rays, they shoot up, they shoot down. They're technically good against Corruptors, and they'll be absolutely dismantled by the Fungals, the Parasitic Bomb. I'm actually really surprised he built them at all. Usually it's better to just have a ground army. No carriers, but in the long run, carriers usually cost more than they gain. Yes, Cletus and his friend, also Cletus the second, his brother cousin. Identical twin cousins. Don't ask how that works. They couldn't explain it to you. And if these lurkers knew how to read, they'd be very upset. Oracle, but only one of them. Oh no, Cletus! Remember me, Cletus. Ah! Ooh. Lasers. How do they work? Well, Serral has 18,000 minerals and still over 9,000 gas. He was attempting to long distance mine one of them. The death ball continues to, you know, ball. And so there are two ways this goes. Either Serral slowly but surely bleeds him out with acupuncture needles, or Serral makes one fatal mistake and the death ball just rolls through him. Because as most of us know, dealing with this sort of army, while Serral has made it look entirely plausible, can go sideways so incredibly fast you'll get whiplash looking back at your army after it's already died to Storm, and Archons, and Tempest, and Mothership. So, if Serral looks the wrong way for like 5 seconds... Okay, 5...
Ah, it's Reese's season.
Up your credit score to up your ride. The better your credit score, the better your car loan. Establish credit with the Chase Freedom Rise credit card. Learn more at chase.com/rise.
Standout pieces at outstanding prices.
Seconds is way too long, like 2 seconds. He's got so much in the bank, I don't think that would be a total disaster. But it certainly would make this a lot more difficult. But so far, he's played pretty much perfect. Like, there's been a couple moments he lost a couple extra investors wandering in with changelings, but he's more than made up for